too far, Michael Kramer! I won't say it that way! Hello and welcome to my channel. So in this video, I'm going to be doing something pretty different, probably even a little bit ridiculous, but Drew, this one is for you. I am doing all of the Wheel of Time words, names, places, things that I mispronounce. So I've commented on this in a couple of videos, but I started reading the Wheel of Time. It has been now 17 years ago, I think. Yeah, 17 years ago. I started reading the Wheel of Time. And the first time I've ever done audio is this current read-through. Now, I did learn about how to pronounce a lot of things later on as well, but when I first started reading it, I did what I usually do for fantasy books. I just kind of, made up my brain, decided what the right thing was, and I usually just, my brain decides that's how you say it and then moves on. Sometimes it's the first time I would say a name out loud, I'd be like, I apparently don't actually know how to say that. My brain just makes something up and goes on. But so I've collected a list of probably not everything. There's so many different names and things, but I found out that there were actually some things, especially from doing the audio, that I didn't even know I was technically pronouncing wrong, and some of them tick me off and I refuse. So the first thing I'll mention is the very first time I read through the whole series, at least, it was on either my first reread or my second reread. I realized that when I had first read the town of Emmons Field, my brain told me it was Edmonds Field. And it was not for, at least, like I said, I went through the entire series thinking it was Edmonds Field. I have mentally corrected that to Emmons Field, because that was just completely on me, and that was totally wrong. But otherwise, most of these are a bit different. So the thing I've noticed, especially from the audio, is apparently Jordan had a thing for the AI being IE constantly, as well as anything ending in an E, it has to be pronounced as either an E or an E or a something. It's never silent. It's always pronounced, and so that does quite a lot of these. And so I'll go through, and I just looked at some of the glossaries and picked out things I knew that I technically mispronounced or at least did at some point. And I'll go through. So the first big one is Aiel, because I say ale. I'm always going to say ale. Aiel I can kind of see, but I feel like that's just complicating it. That's one I've known about for a long time, and my brain doesn't like it, so it's still ale to me. And then with some of the names, so with Egwene and Nynaeve, those two names I pronounced very wrong originally my first time through, because I always said Egwene, and Egwene actually I'm okay with, and that makes sense. And with Nynaeve, I think I pronounced the A, and I said Nynaeve, or Nynaeve, I extended it way too long, which didn't make a lot of sense, but granted, as we'll talk about, Jordan apparently intended for a lot of his names to be pronounced in weird ways, so I feel like mine was completely valid. There is, so there's a lot of places, names, other things here, so like I said, I'm going to go down the list. So with Andor, in the audio they always say Andorans, and I always just said Andorans. That's pretty minor, but makes sense. It's some of them are not bad, some are. Then next we have Aram, the Tinker. I'm not saying Abram, that just sounds dumb to me, and I'm going to stick with Aram. Then we have Gareth Bryant. I have always pronounced it Brine, and it's spelled B-R-Y-N-E. You can't tell me that's not Brine, but apparently it is Bryn. It's supposed to be Bryn, and I disagree. Then you have Galad. I always said Galad, which Galad, I suppose you can have that. There are some names with the A's pronounced differently, but it just seems easier. I still can't get over, and I get why, and I get that the name Gawain is reminiscent of Gawain, but I always read it as Gone, and I will never get myself to say Gawain. I just can't. That one I can see once again, but I can't get myself to say it. Another one where it was just literally me, my brain telling me there was an extra letter, is Arter, or actually I guess it would be a less letter. So Arter Hawkwing, I always read as Arter Hawking my first time or two. I think actually that was one where I heard somebody say Arthur Hawkwing, and I'm like, it's Hawking. And I'm like, oh no, I'm the one that's wrong. They're correct. And so I found that one out. Then we have Lord Luke, which is Luc. I always said Luck, which I feel like makes more sense, but apparently it's Lord Luke, who's mentioned very briefly. we have the big one now. So you have Saidar and Saidin. I've always pronounced it Sadar and Sadin. Once again, I can get the pronunciation, but I just the AI always having to be I and everything. Like, I know that's fine, but that's where a lot of my gripes come in, is that AI sounds just being overpronounced. And if you look at it phonetically, it's actually apparently Sa'idar and Sa'iden. So not even Saidar and Saidin, it's Sa'idar and Sa'idin. Or Sa'iden, or no, it is Dean. So Sa'idar, Sa'idin. That's phonetically. So even the narrators pronounce it slightly different than that. So once again, that's where you get with fantasy names. Next up, we're back to a place with Shinar. I hate the way that sounds. I've always said Shinar and Shinarens. Once again, I feel like the S-H-I-E being she instead of shy makes sense, at least to me. And Shinar and Shinarens, I like the sound of much better. It's one of those things I've gotten used to it, and I can't get myself to change. Here's a really small one, but I've always said Tabak for, like, you know, it's tobacco, and so Tabak, Tobac, you know, it kind of fits me, but apparently it's Tabak, like a chicken. Tabak is how you're supposed to pronounce it. And, like, that's a really small one, but eh. And then we have the Shan Chan, which this one annoys me because of all of the, like, names that are pronounced differently than they're spelled. You're going to tell me that Robert Jordan actually wants you pronounced S-E-A-N as Sean? I don't believe you. And I've always just said Scene Chan. And once again, I try to, when I'm doing videos, I usually try to correct myself in my brain. There's always the moment right when I'm about to say it where my brain's like, no, don't say it the way you always say it right this time. But so with the Shan Chan, they've got some other ones, including the I-Dom, which it's just literally an A. I don't see how you get an I sound from the letter A and an apostrophe. It's Adam. That's how I'm always going to say it. Then you also have Damani, which is D-A-M-A-N-E. Damani. I've always said domain. Once again, you don't need to pronounce that E. Also, having Damani be the word for, you know, the women who were captured by the Shan Chan, it sounds almost identical when you say it to Domani. Domani, Domani. Like, it's too similar to a freaking group of people in the world, and I don't like it. Granted, I'm pretty sure Domani, like the people, are, I'm pretty sure that's right, but maybe I'm wrong about that one too. Oh my gosh. So this one I actually just learned, and it made me, like, enraged when I heard this name. I actually yelled at Michael Kramer in the audiobook, and I'm just like, this time you've gone too far, Michael Kramer! I won't say it that way! Because at the end of the Great Hunt, the name is used. So I'm going to say the character. Now, before I say the way that it's apparently supposed to be pronounced, I'll say this. Myself included, even though I know it's wrong, and quite a lot of other people have always thought of the character as Bridget. Now, the thing is, it's spelled like Burgett. And so it's Burgett, you know, I've kind of forced myself to say Burgett because I know it's spelled that way. It's B-I-R-G-I-T-T-E, so it's definitely not B-R-I, it's B-I-R, and I know that. And so I always kind of read it as Bridget because it was an easier name and it just made more sense. But so Burgett, fine, I can do that. And I looked this up. This is in the glossary. It confirms that apparently Michael Kramer is quote-unquote correct. It is supposed to be Birgitte. Hell no. Birgitte? I'm not saying that. That sounds ridiculous. I don't know what you were smoking when you wrote that. That's just, I can't do it. Birgitte. That one ticked me off. Oh, another Scene Chan word. That's right, I'm going to my pronunciations now. If you're still watching this video, you're going to hear me pronouncing everything my way from now on. The Karen is how I always said, which is the Forerunners. So C-R-E-N-N-E, Karen, is the Corina is what it is. Even though there's only one E, And it's just like I don't get Karina, I get Karen. That's what I get out of that. If you would have said Karena, maybe, but even then it's getting to the thing with the E being pronounced at the end, which is just not really. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I know this is a fantasy language, so it can have different rules, but it's written in English. I know they're made up words, but like it just does not follow so many of those rules, and it makes it hard for me. And it's also the Helene is how I would say it, which is the return. I think I have those right. And apparently that's the Helena, which that makes more sense than Karina, but I still don't like it. I've got Damani in here again. So there are a couple of these are a little bit more nitpicky. We have Elida, which granted that does sound like more like snooty, so makes sense. I've always just said Elida. Once again, that's kind of me just defaulting to the easier name. I can get past that. For the term for warders, which I always said Gaiden, because once again I don't pronounce I sound constantly like Robert Jordan apparently wanted Michael Kramer to, but is Gaideen. And then this one too, it's like, so Malkier is Malkier. Malkier is how I've always said that. Apparently it's Malkier, which it's just, once again, like, I don't feel like that's how it's spelled, but okay, whatever. So here's my actually favorite one. I have no problem with this. I pretty much pronounce it the same way. And I don't know, if you know if there's a story behind this, let me know, because I would love to know. Every single time Michael Kramer says this particular borderland country, it's Saldeia. He always says it with the accent like that, Saldeia. Every single time. There's like nothing else. Even if it's other like words, places, nothing else is said the same way, but Saldeia. Every time, and it just makes me laugh. And I always get Saldeia. And it just makes me sound like, I know it's not like canon. It's not canon, but I feel like apparently Saldeia is where the Italians like me go to live. So I just always said Saldeia. Just not Saldeia. I can do that. I'm Italian. So just so you know. But so that one just makes me laugh. We have a couple others that I have big problems with before we get to more. There is still one really, really egregious one coming. But I have, and I always will say Tarvalon. Tarvalon is just, once again, I feel like this is over-pronouncing, emphasizing things. Tarvalon is much simpler. That's how it's spelled. And then you have Tigraine instead of Tigraine. So once again, it's an I. I know it can make an E sound, but like I feel like you're stretching there a little bit with that one. This one, very minor with Manetheren. I always said Manetheren. Manetheren does sound more correct to me, and so that's one where I heard that said the first time, like, oh, that does make sense. Once again, so many of these things, I made up how to pronounce them without ever saying them out loud, so sometimes even like my pronunciation, I'd say it out loud, I'm like, that does not make sense, or like I'd realize I did not know how to pronounce it, and my brain just glossed over it. One that's pretty bad, but not the really bad one, is Mazrim Taim. Now, even in the audiobooks so far, they say time and not Taim, but phonetically it is supposed to apparently be Taim for T-A-I-M, because Robert Jordan's got to have an I sound and everything. So Mazrim Taim, which always annoys me. One other innocuous one is the Maul in Tyr, M-A-U-L-E, is the Mull, because once again, just have to pronounce the E. The worst one. So this was like, I don't think it was quite as bad as Brigitte, but it was pretty close for me. The Thief Catcher, Julin Sandar. Julin, Juilin, is apparently pronounced Juilin. Juilin. No, it's not. It isn't, okay? It's not. It's not pronounced Juilin. It's Julin. That's another one I cannot, I could never get myself to say that seriously, and I'm just like, no. Not at all. No, I can't do it. So that is like I said, probably a complete list, because I do have the encyclopedia, but I wasn't going to go through there. I feel like this video is long enough with me just checking glossaries from the first 3 books. to look for some like really obvious ones to me, but I'm sure I'll discover more. And I'm sure in my future Wheel of Time videos, you will hear me mispronounce things. Some of them I'll pronounce right, because I do try to make myself do it. Because it does, like, I can get it. When somebody, like, really badly mispronounces a name, I can understand. But with fantasy names, and I know it depends, a lot of authors don't really care. Some of them are pretty particular about how you actually pronounce the names. But it's just like, you're making up words. And, like, Tolkien, I can accept him. He wrote, like, all of the linguistics stuff because he was a linguist on how to pronounce things. So I can accept that his stuff makes sense. But so many of these, I'm just like, maybe they're from something. I know with the Wheel of Time especially, there's a mishmash of so many different like cultures and languages, things like that. But I'm just like, some of these go too far. So, anyway, those are many words that I mispronounce in the Wheel of Time. Let me know in the comments if you have any that you learned you were also mispronouncing from this list, and also any other ones that you mispronounce that you found out later about, or ones you think I might. Always curious to hear more and be told how wrong I am with it. So let me know down in the comments. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the link in the description for the Wizardly Duo Discord if you want to chat. The Wheel of Time books, or really any books at all. You can also join the buddy read for the Wheel of Time. It's Shadow Rising in May, and we're doing a book a month. Still going for quite a while. So check that out. It is a lot of fun. We would love to have you. Of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.